You know that feeling where you've prepped everything for your business, you know exactly what you're going to do, what you're going to say, and how things are going to go. But when it comes down to actually taking the action, you freeze, you fumble over things, and you're never getting the results that you really want to get, even though you think you've done all the prep that you could possibly do. And the missing key, your nervous system. So there are lots of ways in which this shows up, and it might be panic with public speaking, it might be anxiety for sales calls, or it might just be having difficulty showing up live where with your clients in calls, and all of those things that you might find really difficult. It can also show up in imposter syndrome, so feeling like you're not good enough, or ultimately in burnout when your nervous system really is totally dysregulated. Now, I've been in personal development world and my own personal development for a long time, like over 25 years now. And I've learned so much about myself, about what I do, about how I function. And I've tried numerous ways in which doing the mindset work, and a lot of it does work. But I'm going to say this: a lot of mindset work does get home and it does have an effect, but it's much quicker to work and it has a much bigger effect when you actually bring in nervous system regulation, because then your body feels safe and it's much easier for those things to then take hold. So by the end of this video, I would hope that you'll understand why nervous system regulation is so beneficial to you in your business, and it's more than just feeling calmer. And how it's a hidden growth trick to actually allow you to expand quicker and better than you ever have done. Just to explain a bit about what happens when you're dysregulating in your business. So there are certain things that can come up and it can show up in lots of different ways. So the first could be panic. So this could be in the moment. It could be when you've got a sales call, when you've got to go live online, when you've got a Q&A meeting with your clients, say. All of these things, you can actually go into a state of panic, dysregulation, and not be able to think properly because you're feeling really stressed. And particularly when you're in sales calls, this can be disastrous. It can also show up as procrastination. So this is when we get to the freeze state. So when we're dysregulated, we often think of fight or flight. And yes, that is a form of dysregulation, but there's also the freeze state. And this is when you procrastinate and don't really do anything because you feel so overwhelmed in your business that you're not doing anything because your nervous system has basically said to you, I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to do nothing. And that is a form of, it's our original. So if you go back and you look at which of our regulation results was the oldest, actually the freeze response is the oldest response that we have to any form of stress. You'll see it in the animal kingdom everywhere. There's loads of famous videos around of goats like collapsing when you scare them. They just faint. They're called fainting goats. If you want to look it up, just search fainting goats. You'll see what they do when you scare them. And you'll see it in reptiles, amphibians. The first thing they'll do when under threat, because that's the only one that they actually have, is the freeze response, because that's where it comes from. It dates back to that part of our brain. So that leads to procrastination. And then there's overworking. Right, so this is where we get into proper fight or flight. Now, fight or flight is a mobilized state. So we fight or we run away, basically. When you're running a business, if you are dysregulated and you're in your fight or flight state, what it might result in is work, no thought, just work, do, right? And you're constantly on. And even when you're trying to switch off, your brain is do constantly. And it's like this, you're wired all the time. And actually what happens is that can feel really good at first because you feel like I'm getting loads done. But then the result is collapse, burnout, exhaustion. Because there's only so long your nervous system can maintain you in that state before it's just too much and the whole system collapses. And that's when you see the proper collapse, when you burn out, when you can't do anything and it takes you a long time to recover and come back to being able to work again. Now, when you're regulated, what you have is more clarity. So because you're calm and you're regulated, you've got more ability to think of ideas and to know what direction you should be going in. And there's more presence. Now, one of the things when you're in that regulated state, and we're aiming for is the ventral vagal state. And this is when you're calm and you're connected. So it's when you're much more able to build social connections with other people. Now, if you're running a business, particularly online, and you want to build social connections, then really that's the state you want to be in, because you're going to be able to be your strongest, most confident self. And this can show up in so many different ways. Like, for example, I'm recording this video right now. If I was dysregulated and anxious and nervous, it would come across in a very different way to if I'm calm and connected and able to articulate how I feel really well. And the other thing is it's resilience. So when you have learned to regulate your nervous system really well, you have greater resilience. So it's much easier for you to bounce back when things go wrong, because you're running a business, right? There will be something that is stressful happening almost every single day. I've had it in creating this video. I was doing a little bit of training on YouTube videos, and the person was like, the webcam from your computer just isn't good enough. Try using your phone. So I tried using my phone, and after half an hour of trying to get my video onto my computer so I could actually use it, and it just was taking ages to do anything, I discovered I'd recorded it and the sound hadn't worked. So, these are the things that test us and that we get to learn all the time. And by having that vagal tone, that ability to regulate my nervous system, I'm able to just roll with it and say, okay, well, let's just re-record it on my computer and deal with the webcam. It's good enough for me. So we're going to go with that. And also, when you're more regulated, you can be more creative, because you've opened up the calm and connected state of you. You've freed everything. When you're in fight or flight or freeze and you're in that kind of like stress state, it's impossible to be creative, because the whole point of being in that state is you're shutting down everything else just to deal with the immediate danger. And so you're not actually doing anything constructive, because you're dealing with and I would imagine if you're in that state, you're constantly fighting fires. Like, you're doing this, you're dealing with that, and you're responding and reacting. You're just reacting to what's going on, and you're not creatively planning. So that's kind of like why regulation matters so much. So I've talked a bit about the science of the nervous system, but just to go into a little bit more detail, often we think of two sides. We think of the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. So the parasympathetic nervous system is when we're safe, we're calm, we're connected. That's kind of where we want to be. And then you've got the fight or flight, which is the sympathetic. It's there. Now, we do also have, like I said, the freeze state, which is like a third state. This is the dorsal vagal state and includes complete collapse. And again, in the sympathetic, we do have a fearful mobilized, where we're running on adrenaline, and we do have a fearless mobilized as well. So that would be excitement, that would be the buzz of energy, and we need some of that sometimes. If you're going to go and present, a little bit of a buzz can help. It's how we manage that and how we monitor it, and how, when we're doing things, how we allow ourselves. So if we were going to present, say, and before we're going to present, we may feel a little bit of that mobilized, fearful state. That's what allows us to kind of mobilized, fearless state, which allows us to kind of get going, turn up, get started. But because we're regulated, that will very quickly switch as we're presenting into the calm and connected stage, because we're starting to build connections with people and we're being our most social. So it's knowing that we have got that ability. And once we know what state we're in, we can know what to do to change that. And also we can understand how we can spend the most time in the state that we want to spend it in. And whatever state you're in, so when you're in that safe state, it signals to your brain that you can focus, you can create, you can connect. Okay, so that's where you want to be. And that allows you as well to kind of keep going. When we're working in that calm state, we can actually do more and be more productive, because we're not using up all of our adrenaline, all of our reserves. So what does that mean practically for your business? Well, the first thing is content creation is easier. One, for a number of reasons. One, you overthink it less because you're feeling calmer. Your brain has more clarity, and also you can be more creative, so you can come up with more ideas. And depending on what kind of content you're creating, if you're doing videos like this, if you're in a safe state, it allows you to be more open, more connected, more easier for people to kind of like connect in with you, because you're in a much more open state. And then also there's sales, right? I want to talk about sales if you are dysregulated or regulated. So if you are in a dysregulated state, and you go into a sales call. So you've got anxiety, your stomach's churning, your heart is racing, your palms are all sweaty, and you're feeling in this really anxious state. And you're trying to talk to your potential client, and you can't think, and they ask you a question and you're struggling to think of the answer, and you're struggling to think of the answer because you're in this fight or flight and your brain can't click into a calm state. So it can't find the answer because it's not clear, it doesn't really know. And then you fumble over things and you kind of try and make the best of it, but you're dysregulated. What your potential client picks up on is the dysregulation, but it doesn't know you're dysregulated. It doesn't think, oh, it's just because someone's nervous. What they pick up on is their nervous system, their body, through neuroception, picks up on a lack of safety because you don't feel safe. So it picks up on that lack of safety. So the brain then goes, this person doesn't really know what they're talking about, because the brain interprets the story from the body that it doesn't feel safe. So it doesn't feel safe in your company. It doesn't want to buy from you. On the other hand, if you're regulated, if you regulate your nervous system before you go into that call, so you feel calm, you feel open, you feel connected, you're chatty, you're more clear. So when they ask you a question, you've got the answer because you know it really, and it's in there. So you answer it, you're confident, you sound like you know what you're talking about. But more importantly, your nervous system is regulated. So you are exuding safety. Their nervous system picks up safety. And that then sends a signal to the brain that this person is somebody they can trust. And then it's buying decisions. Then you get into strategies for selling, which I'm not talking about here. But if you don't make that person feel safe from the beginning, all the strategies in the world are not going to get them to buy because they're not going to trust you. So actually going in there with a calm, safe nervous system is going to make the biggest difference to start with. And it's about consistency. So when you're regulated, it allows you to turn up consistently and to not burn out because you don't over push. When you're regulated, when you start to feel tired, you're like, okay, I'm tired now. And you're calm. You're not like feeling like I've got to do. So your body just says, okay, it's time to rest. And you allow yourself that rest because you're clearer and you're more capable of knowing where you are physically and emotionally and mentally. And so actually what happens is you're much less likely to burn out because you feel like you're working from a natural rhythm rather than pushing through everything that you could possibly do. And that's one of the things that I've been learning. And if you watch my videos, you'll see that I'm teaching not from the point of view of like the expert who's got it all sorted, because I don't think I have got it all sorted. I know there's still loads of work to do. I still get dysregulated and I'm still working on my regulation practices. But I've suffered burnout twice in my life and it's awful. It's debilitating. You just feel so exhausted. And more than that, like when you're doing an online business, you get messages coming in from people and there's demands. And I was literally just at the point where I was like, my brain can't even think about any of these things right now. I can't even respond to a simple email. I don't have the cognitive ability to do it. And people are like, well, can't you just send like, oh, I'm sorry, and I was like, I can't even do that. I literally couldn't even read the emails because my brain couldn't cope with the stress of it. And when you get to that stage, you know that you've pushed yourself too far. And so I've spent a lot of time working on my nervous system, thinking about it. And I think about it while I'm working. It's something that I come round to all the time, that I'm working on, that when I notice a little bit of dysregulation, I bring myself back to a calm state. Now, one of the things I would say is we often think of this, we think of nervous system regulation and we think, oh my goodness, this is going to take us ages to learn all of this. I'm going to have to set aside half an hour, all this time every day to sit and do this practice. And I don't want to sit and do this practice for that amount of time. I don't have the time. Everything's on top of me. Because you're dysregulated, that's how you feel. And this is why I want to say to you, this is not about creating some really long practice that you fit into your day. It's not adding more things that you have to do that are going to stress you out, that are going to make you feel like you're not enough. What I want to do is give you some simple practices and explain to you can do it in really, really short bursts. So it can be half an hour, a minute here, a minute there, maybe 2 minutes here. And, trying to fit it in. If you could do it every hour on the hour, great, because you're doing little practices. And when we regulate our nervous system, it isn't one big thing. We don't do a nervous system regulation practice for an hour and then bam, that's it, our nervous system is regulated. We're constantly going like this up and down all day. And so if we come in with like a minute here, a minute here, a minute here, little drops of regulation, little drops. We're reprogramming our nervous system for calm. We're teaching it to come back to calm all the time. And so when that stuff happens, and we notice the nervous system bubbling up, we go, oh, okay, and then we just regulate it back down because we're able to do that. We've learned it, we've regulated, we've built the resilience, we know what we're doing. And so I'm going to share with you a really quick practice that you can do. And you can do this either, like I said, on the hour, every hour, or if let's say you're doing back-to-back calls with clients, as you hang up from one call, do this regulation practice before you go into the next, because it's going to allow you to go into it clean, fresh, ready, and able to take them on and stop you burning out by the end of the day if you've got a lot of meetings. So all you want to do is just sit. You're at your desk, you don't even have to get up, just sit where you are, feet flat on the ground, and feel your feet on the ground, feel them. Feel yourself connected to the earth. And then start to sense the body. Nothing special, just feeling it. You're not trying to change anything in the body, you're just feeling what's happening there. And just feeling your life force in your body. And then we're going to take a couple of deep breaths just to reset ourselves. So we deep breath in through the nose, feeling the belly expand. And then exhale through the mouth. Really squeeze the stomach out to get all the air out. And again, inhale deeply. And then allow the breathing to return to a natural rhythm and come back to feeling the body, feeling the feet on the ground. I'm right here and right now. Away you go. Do your next thing, regulated, calmer. So that's one practice you can do. Another one that I like to do, and I'm a single mum, it's really hectic. Working, kids, stuff going on all the time. My house still finished, need for elevating. I'm doing that myself as well, somehow. And there's little things going on all the time. So if you've got kids, you can even think about some practices that you can, when you can regulate yourself with your kids. Now, there's a breath that I do that my son loves, and it's called bee breath. It's a really common breath you get taught in yoga, and he's been doing yoga classes at school and he's learned it there as well, so it's great. So we inhale, and you just do, you can keep the lips together. I can't do it as well. And that buzzing sensation, oh, my lips feel all after doing that, but it's quite nice. And it sends the vibrations through the throat and it regulates you. Now, if you do it with your kids, bear in mind they will find that quite funny, but then laughing helps to regulate you. Unless you have my son, and when we do bee breath together, we then have to go through a whole remit of the whole farm animal breaths, or shark breath, as he likes to do. He created his own one, shark breath. That's what we have to deal with. But it's a great way of doing it. It regulates you, calms you down, makes you feel more human again, right? Because you've built that connection. So even that act of doing it with your child, of teaching your child a breath, like the bee breath, or teaching them to do the om. He loves oms. He wants to listen to them all the time. So we go, oh. So something like that, I find that one the most calming of all. It just vibrates through my whole body and I feel really chilled after just one long breath of om. And again, that's working on deep breathing because you're breathing in and that whole act of omming and you're breathing out for a really long time. So doing that with your kids as well, if they're around, they will get benefit from it, you will get benefit from it, and then you help to regulate your nervous system by connecting as well, which always regulates anybody's nervous system. It's co-regulation, and you're teaching them valuable tools at the same time as regulating your own nervous system. So those are just some things you can try to bring into your daily life and see how they work. And over time, they start to tone up and build the resilience within your nervous system so you can come back to calm much more quickly. So just saying thank you for being here, and just to remind you that if you like this video, to like and subscribe so you get more of my wonderful content. And if you found it useful and you would like more practices, recordings of practices that you can use, come and join my free group, The Sacred Pause. I've got loads of practices in there that are around about 2 or 3 minutes that you can use at home and practice and use them to integrate them into your daily life. I'll drop the link in the description, and I hope to see you on the inside. But if not, I'll see you soon.